So let's just look at a couple more examples here. In number three, we have what's called a list. Um, and you see that from the braces here. Braces represent lists. So it's the exact same as showing ordered pairs in a table, except we're showing them in more of a format that we'd see uh, maybe if we're going to talk about a specific point that's on a graph. So we have five different ordered pairs here, where the first number is always your x value and the second is always your y. And sometimes it does help to show that. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll list x, I'll write x and y above my values. And it's not that it's a complicated concept here, but it does help you stay organized. So for our domain, we need our x values, and we don't repeat values when we do this. We just list different x values that we see. So we have a -2, we have 0, there's another -2, so we don't need to list that again. We have a 7 and a -8. So I'm going to list those from lowest to highest. So we can see our domain is -8, -2, 0, and 7. And for our range, similar idea. Find your different y values. We have 6, we have 8, we have 20, we have 4, and there's another 8. So we don't need to list that a second time. So it looks like we have 4 different y values. And listing from lowest to highest, our range is 4, 6, 8, and 20. And is this a function? All of that boils down to, did you have x's that repeat? And you probably already figured it out, since we have 4 different x values, but we have 5 different ordered pairs. There was an x value that got reused somewhere. And if we look, we see that was the x value of -2. Okay, so we have an x value of -2 reused. And that's what's going to cause a problem for us. So the answer to being a function is no. And the simple reason can be that x equals -2 repeats. And more formally, we could say that as x equals -2 is paired with multiple y values. -2 is paired with 6. It was also paired with 20. Because technically, if this was a 6 and this one was a 6, we would have no issue. But it did. And so we can just simply say that x equals -2 repeats. It is best to say what x value repeats. That way you're showing that you did identify the problem. Don't just say x repeats. Talk about which one of them did it. Okay, so for our mapping, again, we already did one of these. So maybe pause the video for a second and see if you can fill in these blanks yourself. If we take a look at the mapping, we see in the first bubble here, there are 5 different values. So we'll list all of those for our domain. So from lowest to highest was pretty easy. They were already in that order. Our domain is -2, 2, 4, 5, and 6. And then looking for our range, check your y values. This 4 was repeated, but we don't show repeats. We just show different values that appear. And so for our, we have 4, 16, 25, and 36. Now, for being a function, our concern was, does x repeat? And the answer is no, x does not repeat. You see all of your x values. None of them have multiple arrows coming off of them. So did a y value repeat? Yes, but that's okay. It's all about whether or not x was reused. So for this being a function, we're going to say yes. And for the reason, we're just going to simply say no x values are repeated, or no x values repeat.